Welcome back to Would You Gaming. Ever since it was announced that Monster Hunter Rise was getting a large DLC, I have been very excited. You have to understand my excitement to sit down and discuss this game after I finally rolled credits on the main campaign. Monster Hunter Rise was already a substantial game that received many updates from Capcom, but Sunbreak is just that much more large. And even down the road going forward, there are going to be additional updates. I think there's supposed to be an update in August with a new monster to begin with, and this is going to continue into 2023. Sunbreak adds just a cherry on top of the fantastic game that is already Monster Hunter Rise. But before we get too far into this and I just go to rambling on, I want to remind you guys, if you haven't already, give us a follow on some of our social platforms. We are on YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram, trying to grow the brand there a bit more. I hope to one day in the future be able to do additional content. I would love to be able to record more, time and life permitting, because at this time there's sometimes weeks between when I can sit down and actually record a podcast, edit, and get that out. And I would love to be able to do that in a much more efficient manner. I would love to be able to do it once a week, but at this time that's just not feasible. Hopefully in the future that does change, and if it does so, then we will try to do more than just the podcast and maybe even add in video so you guys can see my ugly mug while I'm sitting here talking about this. Let me know what you think about that. Shoot us a DM. I am on one of those platforms. We're always looking for feedback there. If you know how we might improve the experience for you, the listening experience, we always want to do so. So do not hesitate to reach out. If you have advice or just general criticism, we will be able to look into that, and I can take criticism. So have at it. Let me have it. If we look at Monster Hunter World, and then we look at Monster Hunter Iceborne and what it did for World, then that is exactly what Monster Hunter Rise got from Sunbreak. And what I mean by that is it's such a large expansion that it might as well be a whole other game. I mean, I've been playing on this for 3 weeks since launch, and some of these monsters are quite difficult, mind you. I've died several times, had to go back in there and retry. But it's an enjoyable experience. It's a grind and a learning curve that I have fun with. So I might go in there the first or second time and just get utterly destroyed by the monsters, but at that point I'm just collecting data. I'm learning move sets. Okay, I've seen this. I know what you're about to do. So you can progress. If you're familiar with the Monster Hunter formula, then you know what I'm talking about. Monster Hunter Rise can be quite difficult in certain places. You start off with lower ranking monsters that you can just breeze through. But once you get to the higher ranks, it is much more difficult. It is 10 times that, I would say, in Sunbreak with the Master rank. Some of the monsters in Sunbreak seem to be able to almost one-shot me. I would be left on a sliver of health or very little health, in danger of a second hit taking me out. Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak was a welcome challenge to an already challenging game. Sunbreak adds in additional monsters. They add in the ability to change switch skills on the fly. The ability to cancel potion drinking was added, as well as a quality of life feature. And just overall, there were features added that should have been here at launch that may have just taken the developers' time to look into. One thing that I really wished we would have got, I like the ability to switch the skills on the fly. I've used the same weapon since launch. I haven't strayed away from the longsword. I really want to try out something else. I wish that in lieu of the switch skill, or if they added in with the switch skill as well, if we got the ability to change the weapon we were using. I would love to be able to change from the longsword to the switch axe, or to another weapon I might want to try out. I need to branch out definitely those weapons. There's so many different types of weapons you can use, and it just changed the overall gameplay of it and how you approach each battle with a monster. I was watching Maximilian Dude play, and he played with a longsword, and he pulled off an attack that did 4k in damage, and I've been doing around 500 with the longsword when I charge it up. That puts me to shame, and I looked at that, I was like, man, I really need to change for the great sword, because the great sword it's a slower weapon. Yes, you're going to have fewer attacks, and you have to be more precise and dodge the enemy and everything, but the payoff is that large amount of damage you're able to do. Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak innovates on the previous entry, the base title, adding in additional monsters as you move along. Of course, you're going to have returning monsters as well that just have been given new movesets. I think it was what was it called? The Rachna Kadaki got a new version as well as some new moves. The Rachna Kadaki had the ability to shoot flames out, but it seems like one of the new moves they added is it shoots out a bunch of smaller spiders, which then shoot out their own flamethrowers. Just subtle variances like this, the Magnamalo usually would throw you up in the air and just slam you when you hit the ground, but this time around, Magnamalo would throw you up in the air, shoot up in the air itself, and then shoot down to catch you on the way down. It's subtle changes like this that make Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak the success that it is. So you have the base game that is already great. You bring back existing monsters and master rank. You make them tougher. You give them newer movesets. And you just expand upon that base formula that has been working for you for so long. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I can't believe it's taken me this long to get into Monster Hunter Rise. I bet that if a friend of mine or someone I knew when I was younger had this on the PS2 and I'd played it, I would have loved it. I saw on Twitter where people said it took the dog and the wire bug to get them in. I think I would have had fun without that, but it definitely does make traversal a bit easier. And I really like what they have done with Sunbreak. There are new changes. They added items on the wall where if you are riding on the back of a monster, you can slam it into it, and it affects them with a status effect. There are also new wire bugs. There are two different types. They up Punisher damage, or they up slam damage you do while riding Rens. There's just a lot that is added in Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak beyond just the monsters themselves. And of course, there is a entirely new hub area, Elgato, which you are in. It's a kingdom that you're helping out to rid of monsters that are popping up. There are several new monsters. There are variants of existing monsters. Some of those variants would include the Magma Almadron, which would be the Magmadron. There was also the Blood Orange Bishaten, a Pyre Rachna Kadaki, which is it was already a fire monster. It's even more of a fire monster now. It is that fire spider, even more spider. I don't understand it, but hey, I guess it's just a different variant. And of course, we had some new ones as well. Of course, the Luna Garen, the Astalos, the Espinas, Gore Magala, Shigaru Magala. There's so many new monsters and returning monsters that it's not funny. You do start off playing some of the older monsters and having to make your way through them, but eventually you're introduced to newer monsters. There's the Daimyo Hermitar, which is a giant crab, the Aurora Somnicanth. There's just so much to do in Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak. The Garangon, which I think looks like Donkey Kong kind of, and that armor set, oh my gosh. The Shogun Cyanatar, my word, I hated that thing because it produced bleed damage. It was just a pain in the butt to deal with at times. You would try to dodge a move, get hit, and then you can't heal all your health at that point. Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak injects a breath of fresh life into the Monster Hunter Rise game. Gives us an option to return to the world we might love, play some of the existing monsters with new moves, and gives us some new monsters as well. The grand total of monsters at this point is over 50, which is just massive if you ask me. And there is plenty of challenge. They've added in follower quests as well as support quests, and what those are where you go on quests, but you have two NPCs that will accompany you. You can change the weapons that they're using to match your playstyle or to complement those. And for someone who has played primarily solo, this is a breath of fresh air. I have played online. I played a little bit of online with my friend Malik, and I have played local as well with my friend Philip. We played a good bit of hunting there. But for somebody who has primarily played solo, this was a lot of fun. There are several of those quests, and it helps out in the long run. Those quests are made a bit more difficult by the fact that the resources in the original chest when you leave the campgrounds are narrowed down to what you would usually be expecting if you're playing online. So if you're playing online, you don't want to clear out the chest. Everybody gets one stack of potions. With this, with the collab quest and the follower quest, what happens is there are only one stack in there. So you don't really have the option to steal them all. You're only getting those 3 first aid pluses. And believe me, you're going to need those and then some to deal with the monsters you're going to deal with, because those quests can be quite difficult as well. I picked this up on the launch day and I just finished it. I think it was Thursday or Friday evening. So I just now finished it. I have sank plenty of time into Sunbreak just doing all this. And I don't, as I stated earlier, I just wish that they added the ability to switch your switch skills on the fly. I wish they would have added the ability to change the weapon you're using on the fly, because I would have liked the option to do so. I want to try out some different weapons. I haven't ventured outside of the longsword at this point, and I really want to try the switch skill, not the switch skill, the switch axe, because I've watched Maximilian Dude play with that, and it looks like a fun weapon to use. Everything throughout Monster Hunter Rise feels fresh and new. There's a couple different new locales that you get to go to. The Citadel, there is the Citadel, the Yawning Abyss, and the Jungle. I believe those are the only 3 new ones that are available. The Yawning Abyss will be for the final monster that you face, which is a beast named Geismagorm. Spoiler, sorry there, didn't announce that ahead of time. And the fight with Geismagorm was quite interesting. If you ask me, it was better than the Ibushi fight we got in Monster Hunter Rise. The final boss is in there. There are a couple different stages to it. You're in an arena the whole time. It's not running away, so it does have that type of element. But at the same time, it is ever so slightly different. You're in this one little area you have to fight it in. For the most part, there are not sentries or anything. They're not anything you can jump on to shoot it with like you would with the Ibushis. Sunbreak is just a phenomenal entry in the series. It is a excellent piece of DLC, well worth the cost. You're going to get well over 40 hours of content with this, because this is Monster Hunter Rise at the end of the day. Even though I may have already rolled the credits, there is still much more that I can be doing. There are hunts that I can go on. There are quests I can complete. Some of the armor sets that you can actually craft look pretty dang dope, if you ask me. There are some wild ones, and I really will be jumping back into this at some point in the future after I take a minor break, if nothing else, to make my dude look cool and to put some cool armor on my Palico and Palamute. I've already got a decent set on the Palamute. He looks pretty interesting. He's purple. I think I used the Almadron set for him, and it's just purple, and the weapon is a purple spear. That's purple trident, I should say. Sunbreak is just more Monster Hunter. It's more of what you love. If you are into the series, if you like Monster Hunter Rise, if you like Monster Hunter in general, you probably are already going to pick it up. I'm putting this out more or less as my thoughts on the title, give you a frame of reference if you are thinking of picking it up. If you're new to the series, at this point you can get the full edition for like $70 from GameStop and most other places. And that will feature Monster Hunter Rise on a Switch cart, and then you get the code for Sunbreak. One thing I will say, after seeing gameplay of Sunbreak on a PC, I really wish that my PC was up to the task of running it. It likely is, but I don't want to put too much of a strain on it. I want to keep this as my editing PC at this time, but it looks so much better than the Switch. The graphical fidelity is just night and day. While it is not bad on the Nintendo Switch, I really do appreciate how it looks on PC. It is gorgeous. Not to put the Switch down, it's just some of the textures, they don't look the best, and that's to be expected. I mean, we're talking about the Nintendo Switch here. It's not exactly a graphical powerhouse. This isn't the PS5. This isn't the Xbox Series X or the One X, whatever the newest one's called. I can't even with Xbox and their naming. It is a fun title that holds up well enough graphically on the Switch, but looks better on PC, if you ask me. If you're on the fence about it, I would definitely pick it up. You're going to have fun with it. If you have people to play with it, all the more so. I personally cannot wait until the day that I'm actually able to have an online connection here that will be able to support online play. Because at that point, I am going to be trying to run this as much as possible. If the game is not dead at that point, and there's still an active community, I may try to stream it as well, because I'm a big fan of the Monster Hunter series. Rise has drawn me in. It's got its hooks in me, and I don't see myself looking back. When we get a new Monster Hunter title in the future, best believe I'll be picking that up as well, provided I own the console that it is going to come out on. Because I still don't own a PS5. You know how that is for some people. If you have been thinking about Sunbreak, download the demo, play the hunts there. There are 2 or 3 of the new monsters there you can play against. The Astalos, the Malzeno, which appeared to be the boss for some point in the game until later on it was revealed that that is not exactly the boss. And these monsters all have differing move sets. It is interesting that there are so many different types of Wrens now. I forgot there's a Seragios as well. The Seragios is another type of monster that is new to Monster Hunter Rise as well. It shoots out shards that can pierce you and cause bleeding as well. Yet another monster that prevents you from healing up entirely. They just seem to focus on that, and that was one of the things that I did not like there. And that was just because of the effect it had against me. Just that it was such an effective tool in their arsenal against me. I will say that the monsters are unique enough. One of my favorite might have been the Lunagaran, which is a wolf that as you beat it down and it becomes more damaged, it spits out more ice. The best way I can explain it is it bathes then, and it builds itself up. So it goes from going on 4 legs to 2. It turns into basically a werewolf. And to me, I had never seen anything like that in Rise at this point. So it was a welcome surprise. And I know for a fact that we haven't seen all the monsters that are available throughout the Monster Hunter franchise. So we will have more games that come forward. We're going to have more monsters that are released into Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak through future patches as well, similar to how they did with the base game, where they added in the boss towards the end of the game. There wasn't really an in-game boss at that time. What they did is about a month later, they patched it in, and then they continued to add more and more monsters. They added in the apexes. So there's going to be patches going throughout 2023 at least. So what that tells me is that even though I've gotten over 40 hours out of this experience thus far, which costs $39.99, $40 for the DLC if you didn't know. So I paid basically $1 an hour for that at this point. There's going to be additional quests, additional monsters that are released as patches. And I haven't experienced those. So I'm going to have even more time with the game. So periodically I will be returning to the title to, if nothing else, tackle those specific monsters and just continue to grind up and get those cooler armor sets. Because that's what Monster Hunter Rise is about at the end of the day. It's about flexing on your friends with that cool armor. Some of the armor that they did looks better than the base game. One in particular that I will say, the Diablos. In the base game, the Diablos armor, it's got the horns and they point straight up, like beside the hunter's head. So the armor set looks like that. The chest piece does. In the DLC, the new monster armor has the horns going out forward off of the chest. And I just think small changes like that just make it look ever so more cool. And I can't wait to see what the franchise has in store for the future and what this DLC drops going down the line. The switch skills are a nice touch. The addition of the new wire bugs, the ability to inflict monsters with status effects by slamming them into specific spots in the wall. There are traps overhead that I saw one of the developers show off during a showcasing, but I've still not run into one of those myself or been able to figure out how to use that. So I may have spent 3 weeks on this game, but I have barely scratched the surface of the content that is available. There's so much more I can do, And of course, with Master Rank being unlocked, what that means is you grind it up similar to the way the Hunter Rank worked before. So once you reached the maximum of HR, I think it was 100 at the time, there was a monster you could fight that had some pretty cool moves and some cool armor, but it wasn't available until you reached max Hunter Rank. Similar to that, with Master Rank, I believe I've seen there's a Magnamalo, and there is a weapon and armor set that just looks very, very cool there. So I'm going to have to eventually spend a lot more time with this, just grinding up and doing that. Sunbreak is a good experience. I've had so much fun with it. I've got more than my money's worth, and I know that I'm nowhere near done with it. If you've been on the fence about it, you've got the money and it's not going to hurt you financially to pick it up, I would definitely say to do so as soon as possible and jump into it. You're going to have a great time. And I think they're going to continue to support this game at least for the next year or so. But I just wanted to give you guys my thoughts on the DLC, what I think about it thus far, after finally rolling credits on it after 3 weeks. It's taken me quite a bit more time than I actually anticipated, but I'm happy about that. I got my money's worth, and I'm not even done. Let me know what you think, what we do to improve this experience for you guys, and I hope you guys enjoy. Peace.